What's going on, everybody? Eric, aka Logical Faith. And one thing that really bothers me a lot is that when I see headlines that imply racism, and then you go and actually read the article, and it really doesn't, it's not a racist attack or anything like that. It's just happened to be something involving people of different races, which could be based on racism, could be based on one person just being a douchebag, or both of them being douchebags. But nope, the headline automatically assumes racism and they inject it into the story. And I was just thinking, can you imagine if the headlines, if they actually did that with headlines involving black people as the perpetrators? So instead of seeing on Facebook or at the actual newspaper, instead of seeing, like, can you imagine if you went on Facebook and you saw, black man shoots another black man at a funeral, or black man convicted of selling drugs, or Tony Johnson, who's a black man, was accused of raping Vanessa Brittany, who's a white woman. Can you imagine if first of all, you think about all of the black people in the world, or in the country, I should say, or your area. Think about all the black people in your area. Think about all of the black people who are accused of these things. Not even the ones that necessarily do it, but who are accused of it. Can you imagine if you continually saw headlines that were worded that way, whether the person was innocent or not, and they injected the race of the person into it? You would have a fit. Black people would have a fit. It'd be like, why you gotta talk about his race? Why can't you just say that this person attacked that person? Why can't you just say that this guy was a criminal? Why do you have to point out the fact that he's black? And I would agree with you. Like, that's like, it's manipulation. It's manipulation. And the crazy thing is, a lot of people don't realize that. But that's exactly what they do with white people all the time. And it annoys me. It'd be like, it'd be like Gus Johnson or whatever, who's a white man, was accused of confronting Tony Johnson, who's a black man. And it's like, you're putting the race in there. It's like you're not even so subtly telling people that the issue is racism. And the reason why that bothers me is, one, is because it's dishonest. Like, my channel, my Facebook, is all about intellectual honesty. Can you be consistent? Don't hold a standard for other people that you are unwilling or incapable of holding yourself to. That's like all I talk about. I mean, I talk about other stuff, but that's the thing that bothers me the most. And I see people will read these stories. Like, I remember one story. It was like black man chained. It was like black men found chain bound at the bottom of a lake or something. It was like modern day lynching or something. You read it, and people were sharing it, and people were getting upset. Obviously, black people and white people getting upset about it. Like, yo, this is disgusting. You read the article, and it was like a gun buy gone bad, and it did involve black people and white people. It was a couple of white guys that was buying a gun from either one black guy or two black guys. Something happened where they panicked during the sale, and one of the white guys ended up shooting the black guys and killing them. And after they killed them, they wanted to hide their bodies, so they got some family members. To help them. And the way that they decided to hide the body was to chain them up and put them at the bottom of the lake, river, whatever, there's some water. Now, obviously, that's upsetting. It's a terrible thing to happen to somebody. It's a terrible thing to do. And on the surface, if you let your emotions rise up, it's like, yo, like, I can understand that initial reaction of like, yo, they still doing that? Like, this is just like what happened before. But not in an article and then in the article it was like, historically during the 50s and 40s or whatever, and white people would hang up black people for committing crimes and being hateful. Like, they're two totally unrelated things. First of all, the guy wasn't hung. Second of all, this article gave you have the context. You literally have the context. You provided the context. And then you chose to give it a different context of something that's literally unrelated. Like, can you show anything in that article that makes the person's motives about race? You can't. They couldn't. They didn't try to. They assumed it and they injected it into the story as if it belonged there. And people read that and they get so upset. Listen, the media is evil. The media is disgusting. And they're going to have to stand before God. Because all of this kind of stuff that they're doing, it's not racist Trump supporters that's inciting racial tension. It's not black people or pro-black people, let's put it that way. It's, okay, at this point now, the Democrats are openly calling for inciting violence. That's the topic for another video. But all of the rhetoric has to do with the media. It's the media who do this. It's the media who twist Donald Trump's word. Donald Trump says MS-13 are animals. They cut people's hearts out. They do this, they do that. Media says Donald Trump calls immigrants animals. Not even illegal. He calls them animals. Donald Trump calls immigrants animals. Donald Trump says we got to close off the border. There are drug dealers that come through. There are rapists that come over that border. What does the media say? Donald Trump calls all Mexicans rapists and drug dealers. That's not how it goes. Donald Trump responds to Elijah Cummings. After Elijah Cummings attacks him, Donald Trump responds and says, hey, how are you going to talk about the areas that I run when the areas you run are disgusting? They're rodent infested. You need to go back and fix that. The media. Donald Trump, who's a white racist, attacks a city that's full of black people. He attacks a city that's been a representative who happens to be black. You're injecting race in there. We can do that all the time. I can argue. I can sit there. I can go in any inner city and make a case for any of those people any black person that lives there is being hateful towards blacks, because I can do that. You're a black man and you're willing to fight this other black man because of a basketball game, because of a bad call in basketball. You're a black man, but you're ready to fight. You're ready to fight this black man because he bumped you in line at the store. Because this, sadly, it's sad to say, this is actually what happens all the time. And then I could be like, we have an epidemic. Black people don't love black people. And I actually believe this. But I don't go around talking about that. That's not how I view. That's not what I do. I talk about it in my YouTube videos, but I don't go and, you know what I mean. I'm just saying, you know what I mean. I can go around doing that. I can start protesting. I can make up signs and I can go on social media and be like, look at this incident. Look at this incident. Look at this incident. We have an epidemic where black people are trying to exterminate black people and all of this stuff. And I would be more right about that than any of the race-based narratives that's going on in terms of like white supremacists or KKK members or anything like that. The whole point is that if people treated black people that way in the headlines and on the news, you would have a fit. Black people would have a fit. Can you imagine if white people were saying, if somebody attacked Donald Trump and the headlines were like, black guy attacks white president, black guy criticizes white president, and then they automatically insinuated, you're only saying that because he's white and he's not black and you miss Obama. You know how infuriated people would be? Like, and this is what I'm saying. Be consistent, because you wouldn't don't hold somebody to a standard that if it was applied to you, you wouldn't like it. If somebody would, do something to you, if you wouldn't like it, then why would you accept it being done to someone else? And that's my whole point. And it just bothers me. And people read these headlines and stuff, and they don't even. Number one, 90% of the time, people that share stories on social media don't read the actual story. They read the headline, they get all riled up. Number two, people read these stories, and it's intended to play on their emotions. And it's like the people don't even try to critically examine what's happening. They read it, they get riled up, and they run with it. And it's just sad that people are so intellectually immature to be like that. But it's even worse. It's beyond sad. It's actually evil to see people in the media actually intending to strike up strong emotions in people like that. It's like you're promoting hate. You're encouraging somebody. You're inciting somebody to hate. You got to think about Shaun King, the white guy, the white black activist Shaun King. You got to think about him talking about, hey, these ICE detention centers are oppressed people and they should be liberated by any means necessary. And then, boom, what happens later? Some guy goes up and attacks the ICE, does a terrorist attack against an ICE center or ICE building or whatever. Like, how did he not incite violence? But Trump could say something simple and normal, like, hey, those people, that town isn't that bad, or I don't know. Trump can say anything. And then, oh, he's inciting violence. He's that's a dog whistle. But a liberal, a fake black guy, but a liberal can be like, by any means necessary. Somebody needs to do something by any means necessary. And nobody's upset. Nobody's riled up. Look, the problem with this world is hypocrisy. I think hypocrisy is a bigger problem than people not loving each other. Now, I guess lack of love is what leads to the hypocrisy. But if we were able to actually call out stuff in the way it is and deal with things honestly, then this society will be just in such a better place. That's the problem. That's one of the biggest problems we have, is that people, when it comes to their own mess, when it comes to their own community or their own group or whatever they identify with, people want to act like this. They're all great. But those same people want to point out the problems with other groups, other countries, that sort of thing. But when you say, well, hey, the same thing's happening over here. Why do you only get upset when it happens with white people? Why do you only get upset when it happens with black people? Whatever. People flip out. Because the issue is not the topic that they're talking about. If you're against racism and hatred, you're going to be against it no matter what color of the person is that's doing it. You wouldn't defend people saying, hey, well, this race of people can't be racist. Or, well, so what? Someone else did it to them, so they're just lashing out. Like, you would, if you're against racism, you wouldn't condone it under no circumstances. If you're against rape and your rival's daughter gets raped, you're not going to be like, oh, well, that's what they get. They're bad people. You're not against rape. That means you're only against rape when it happens to somebody you like. And the same thing comes with these headlines and racism. It happens the most with racism. People that claim to be against racism have no problem when the people that they like are racist. And the racism is directed against or towards people that they dislike. Just like those headlines. And I can't think of a better example of the hypocrisy. And I don't know. This was on my mind today. I hope it makes sense to y'all. And just comment. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. If you think it's okay for the headlines to be worded like that. If you think it's okay for people to be emotionally manipulated. Tell me. Tell me why. Give me a logical reason why. All right? And if you agree with me, if you support me, then please like this channel. Please share it. Subscribe if you aren't already. It really is encouraging to see that people actually listen. All right? That's all I have for now. Have a good day. And don't be a hypocrite.